Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Cole Cacamus and welcome back to the channel. This here is the 16-inch, wow this barely fits in frame, M1 Pro MacBook Pro. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that name, but regardless, I am so excited to finally have this here. Let me put this down. I've been anticipating this guy for months, pretty much since the original M1 MacBooks got released. I was like, I want the big one. It's finally here. I'm so excited. I even have the Apple shirt on to represent. It's a good day. What's even better is that I actually wasn't supposed to have my order today. I was lucky enough this morning to get it for Apple Store pickup because originally my shipping date was like end of November, early December. With that said though, I'll be giving you guys my first impressions, basically everything that I think about this laptop after a few hours of use. To quickly go over all the specs, this is basically the base model with just some boosted storage. So it's 16 gigabytes of RAM, a terabyte SSD, and then the M1 Pro chip. Now just a quick disclaimer, with the M1 Pro on this 16-inch, the base model has a 10-core CPU, whereas on the 14-inch, it is actually an 8-core CPU. So I just wanted to point that out there so that anyone who doesn't know and maybe has the 14 is like, hey man, you said it's a base model, but it only has 8 cores. So just put that out there. So in the box, of course, we have the Apple paperwork like usual. What's special this time around though is that inside we get the new black Apple stickers, which in my opinion look really clean. With that said though, I never really use Apple stickers. I don't even know where to put them. So I guess for now they'll just be like decoration or something. Then moving on, we have the 140 watt charging brick alongside the new braided MagSafe 3 cable. I'm really impressed with the quality and just happy to see that it's back. But if you do manage to misplace this or just not want to use it, you can actually still charge with USB-C. The design has sort of a retro MacBook feel with it being thicker and having rounder edges. It's also really heavy at 4.7 pounds. Honestly, taking it back to the car was my workout for today. The thickness is definitely noticeable, but not as much as I thought after looking at the pictures. Its height is only 0.66 inches, which is actually pretty similar to the last model. The one thing about it though is that with it being so large, it just barely fits into my backpack. So for students, unless you have like a big laptop bag, this probably won't be the best option. Luckily, the 14 looks very promising and has that same power in a much smaller form factor. Now, we got back ports, but I don't want to give them too much credit. I'm not complaining, but like they shouldn't have taken them away in the first place. So instead of the 4 USB-C, we have 3 USB-C, an HDMI, a headphone jack, and an SD card. Yes! This is so nice to just be able to edit my photos or videos without needing a dongle. The display here on this 16-inch model is obviously massive, but I'm so glad that I went with it. It looks beautiful and the colors are fantastic. The smaller bezels give even more screen real estate, which is awesome because I feel like I can actually multitask on here. While I did really like the portability of the 13-inch, I always felt like there wasn't enough room to have more than like 2 tabs open, and so this is going to be a great change. Now, I want to give the 14 credit because it keeps that same portability while giving you a little bit more screen. And of course, I couldn't forget about ProMotion. Now, to be honest, I was not expecting to see this at all, so this was a very pleasant surprise. They market it as like being good for gaming, and I kind of laugh because I know this thing is not going to be able to game. I'm downloading like Firewatch. I'm going to try some games on here. I have zero expectations at all, but overall, it feels really smooth. It's similar to the iPhone where it's adaptive, so it's not always going to be at 120 hertz, so it's going to move around depending on the content on the screen. I'm excited to test this out and see how it really is. So the elephant in the room is the notch. They did it. They did it. We have the notch on a MacBook. Honestly though, I don't mind it. I really don't. I know there's a lot of people who hate it, but honestly, it makes a little sense because instead of just having a bezel there, they just put the menu bar up. What is a little annoying though is that there's a little space underneath, maybe like 15, 20 pixels, where the bezel doesn't cover, so you see that little gap. I don't like it, but at the same time, it's really not that bad. Whenever you're going full screen in an app or a video, it'll just black out the entire bar and hide itself. Now, one thing I should mention though is that when you are watching a video, it's actually not completely centered because they don't account for the sides next to the notch. They're just measuring it as if it was just bezel up there. I feel like that's something that could be fixed in software, but I don't know. I feel like they should have already done that. So the reason that this thing is even there is to house the new 1080p camera. Finally, God. There's no Face ID now, which is a little weird, but I know it's because next year they're going to actually add it and be like, hey guys, that's why the notch is there. And then act like they didn't add it last year. Whatever. But anyways, the webcam is going to be great for actually going into Zoom calls and not looking like crap. So this video is straight from the webcam on the MacBook along with the stereo microphone on here. Sounds really good. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with this. I'm definitely very impressed. Let me know your thoughts though. The keyboard is a refreshing update from my 13-inch Butterfly one. It's all blacked out, which looks really sweet, but it also just differentiates it from other MacBooks. Typing on it feels so much better, similar to the iPad Magic Keyboard, which I've loved using. So we got rid of the touch bar. Maybe it's finally for some people, but I never owned a MacBook with a touch bar, so maybe this is why, but I always loved it. I always thought it was super cool. but it's whatever. Instead, we have the big media keys up there. There's ones for do not disturb and dictation, which actually replace where the old backlighting adjustments used to be. And so I'm not gonna lie, when I first opened this up, I was like confused trying to figure out how to change it. I'm like, oh my God, is this one not backlit? I was scared for a second, but it turns out you just have to go in a control center. It's not quite as nice of a user experience, but honestly, I do toggle do not disturb quite a bit, so this will be very convenient. Additionally, there's a redesigned Touch ID button that feels great and is very responsive. I didn't have this on my old MacBook, so this has just been a joy to use. While this is no mechanical keyboard like my Keychron Q1, review coming soon, I still really like it. Of course, here's a quick sound test. The trackpad on here is massive, but it's best in class. It feels great to use, and maybe it's just me, but it feels a lot different this time around, a lot louder, but also more responsive. MacBooks have always had really good speakers, and this one's no exception. They're pretty massive, but it does show in their quality. It won't do it justice, but here's how they sound. And that there is the 16-inch M1 Pro MacBook Pro. So these are just my first impressions from the first few hours of using a laptop, but in my full review, I'm going to stress test this thing with games, video editing, game development, and in a few weeks, I'll have something really cool for you guys. I've been using Premiere Pro since I started this YouTube channel, and I'm going to be trying Final Cut for the first time on this MacBook, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot more optimized and perform a lot better, but we'll see. I'm really loving this thing. I can't wait to keep using it, but let me know what you think so far. To everyone who's made it to this point of the video, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed and you want to see more tech content in the near future, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel because we're about to be at 1,000 subscribers. Absolutely insane. It's been such a fun ride, and I can't wait to keep going. And with that said, till next time, take care.